Bill, I see that everybody's here, you don't have to call a roll. And this is a special meeting, and it's just to discuss the 2020 budget. On the little background, on the 18th of May, I got a call from Gail saying that our budget for 2020 was due by as soon as possible, but by no later than the end of the month. Since it takes 14 days generally before we can schedule a meeting, 14 and 18 is 32. So I told Gail just to send in a $225,000 figure on the budget, and I would have a meeting later, and I'd send a letter to the commissioners explaining that. Now, I forgot to send a letter to the commissioners in May, and I was gone for halfway June, and I got back and sent a letter in the middle of June. Now, this budget should have been included on the agenda for the last meeting we had. We didn't, and that's my fault alone. And I had the agenda written up, and I said I ought to include that, and I said, I'm not gonna go back and change it, just let it go. That was my fault. So now we're here to approve the budget that should have been approved in May. Now, the $225,000 figure is for a budget that is only gonna be used if the authority is extended again for 2020. If the commission doesn't extend the authority past 2020, whatever we do here does not matter. I think the $225,000 is what we originally have had, and this will see what the other counties come up with, and with the program, and of course, there's always a good chance that the commission will cut the budget, which they've done the last 2 years. So,
Was this, Hank, was this meeting properly legally, this wasn't 2 weeks on this August 1st, so what's the move going forward on this? I mean, is this?
Yeah.
I understand it was the auditor's office, but it wasn't 14 days, correct?
actually well, we don't need 14 days, we need 10 days, but
10
by the
days.
time she puts it in the paper, it takes 14 days. Now, going forward, this is gonna be our last meeting of the authority, because we expire in next, March. So anyway,
Excuse me,
that's
is he
where we're
asking
at.
if this is a legal meeting? Are you asking?
Yeah.
This is Rosa Larson,
Yep,
the
Rosa-
attorney,
oh,
the
Rosa's
state's
here, okay.
attorney.
It was
Just wanted-
properly noticed.
Just wanna make sure that everything's,
Yeah, there's no
We have
time,
this down in
you have to have a meeting notice for 2 weeks in
Sir
advance.
Tanner, I thank you, because see, you're making my point, it would be very difficult to have a meeting in May when you guys are all in the field, and, we're going on, and I was gone, maybe gone all through June, so that was the problem.
well, it should have been done earlier instead of now, last minute, but that's beside the point.
So anyway, what I will do, I'll be looking for someone to make a motion that we approve the minutes, approve the budget as submitted.
So moved.
One made the move, that
Let's
the
talk,
motion.
let's talk about the budget a little bit here.
I can't,
First, we have to make a motion and a second, and then discussion.
there's a budget submitted on May 28th, 2019, be endorsed and approved as submitted. Jerome made that motion, is there a second?
I will second.
Made and second, discussion.
First up, if you look at the statute says that our tax levies are supposed to only be used for weather modification activities. And included in here is membership into the North Dakota Weather Mod Association. I think it's 1,800, I don't have it broke out, but I saw that before. So we're taking the tax money to use that to lobby for tax money. And that's not the intent of this board. It says so right here in the statute. 61-04.1 through 26. Money deposited into weather modification fund shall be used only for weather modification activities in conjunction with the state of North Dakota.
I, talked with Lance, is it Davey? He's with, executive director.
He's the director of it. He's the same guy who was fired from the state for misappropriating 2.1 million, I think. Yep.
Well,
That was Stevie.
Besides that, I called him because he is the executive director of the water users. And he said that, he'd never had anybody ever question
Yeah, I was
the
wondering.
use of the membership dues from the counties.
That's what they want.
And the thing is, weather modification is just a small part of North Dakota water. there's flood control, there's, any of the water that's being pipelined to different areas. And when they send someone to the legislature to lobby, it's to,
Yeah, that's
most of it's for education, it's for outreach, to have different, programs out there for people to come and learn what the project that they're working on, what's gonna happen, where it's going forward. And they don't go to the legislature just to lobby for a weather modification, because we're just a small piece of that pie.
The North Dakota Weather Mod Association, it lobbies for weather modification.
Well, I'm just saying,
I know, but
most of
I'm
what they
saying.
do is education.
I know, but it specifically states weather modification activities. So then you're taking the tax money and using it for its unintended purpose, which is for weather modification activities. And here's the thing, if you wanna give to that group privately, you can, but you can't take this board's money that's specifically to be used for weather modification activities and use it.
I guess I compare it to, I'm on our township, treasurer also.
Association of Townships, Oswego Cities,
And every year I send a check to the North Dakota Township Association for dues. And there too, they use that money to enhance for all the townships within Ward County.
Your township board has a broader purpose than this board. This is a single purpose board. And it's laid out in the statute. That's my point.
Well, see, I think you're reading the, weather modification activities in a very narrow sense, and I think someone can read it as saying that that's what the, weather modification activities includes that. Now,
Maybe
we
should
have a
seek
lawyer here, she
clarification.
can tell us, does the county pay into the, the Association of Counties?
That question could be answered better by the auditor, but I venture to guess yes.
And now,
And-
that new law that they
And
changed.
I can also tell you that my dues as a state's attorney gets paid into the North Dakota State's Attorneys Association, which goes to, NADCO, and
So
we have an executive director that goes to legislature and doesn't necessarily lobby, but informs and assists in fixing criminal statutes that are gone sideways.
We had the same thing came up in the airports, is that we hired a lobbyist,
Right.
big time.
Right.
And, to get money out of the state, and someone said that's probably not the right way to go, but they did it and everybody's happy with it, so I think it's the same here, so unless you wanna make a motion.
But this,
to-
it specifically lays it out in the statute though. Would you like to see it, Rosa?
I think that,
Well-
Roger, would you like to make a motion on that we don't, pay the?
There's a motion on the floor.
Right.
There's a motion on the floor. You need to stick with the motion on the floor.
Unless
We're
there's,
just,
unless
I'm just
there's
discussing the
amendment.
budget thing, because here's the other thing about that. I'm a de facto member of the North Dakota Weather Mod Association by being on this board, and I was removed from all correspondence with that association. Why?
With what, are you talking
The
about?
North Dakota Weather Mod Association, they send out those emails from Lance.
If Lance or Darren sends an email out, Roger's not on that list.
I think it's because the first time,
You have to ask them.
No, that was a seating, that was the operations update that I replied to that Hank had a problem with. The actual North Dakota Weather Mod Association emails, I received the first one, and I've never been included since then. I was removed from the list.
you would have to take that up with them, I have no idea.
Well, I would like, then let's have a freedom of information request, North Dakota Weather Mod Association. I'd like to see all the correspondence
Roger,
with them.
you can do that on your own, it doesn't.
I know,
have to
but
be
I wanna
board.
talk about it. This needs to be
But
brought up.
You're in the middle of a motion to discuss budget.
Well, it all relates to the budget.
Any other discussion?
What, Gail, that 3,500, what do you have proposed for a line item? You said 1,800 to the dues, and then what,
Okay, 1,800 is,
of the 3,500?
yeah, dues, wages, and my wages are $1,200 for the year.
money well spent, by the way.
Advertising, and that is, in the Minot Daily for meeting notices. And that pretty much is it.
That advertising,
Mileage.
500, yeah.
Yeah.
And it pretty much is approximate, I think pretty much every year it's that 3,500, it's,
Yeah.
and it falls in there. And, the extension, we put it in just because there are times we have done 1 week extension and it usually averages 14, 15, depending. And, sometimes we use it, sometimes we've had a 2-week extension, sometimes we've not used it. If we don't use it, the money's carried over, and then usually we ask for that much less in the next budget.
Now, I understand this, if the, authority is not renewed, all the money is turned over to the county anyway. So, whatever we have here. So like I said, we're deciding on a budget that we hope will be approved by the commission, and we hope that the association, or that the, weather modification authority will be renewed, but that's only our private hopes. With the board, it doesn't really matter, that's, we're just supposed to do it on the program. So, if there's any other discussion, I'll just call the question.
I had kind of something I looked through here and came up with an idea. Through research, it looks like we have about 4 to 5 severe thunderstorm watches per year. If we just had a budget that, if we had seating days on those days, it would be about a total budget of $11,250. We split that out, be $7,500 from this board, the state would match it, be $3,750, come to $11,250. We could cover that with the overrun we have, then we'd also have $13,250 left over for any extensions, or say it's a busy year. It's something that we could have, you know, there's been discourse here about a lot of stuff, and this could be somewhere where, you know, if there's a bad situation where it warrants something should be done, we have the ability to do it, and we don't have to raise any more tax money, cause we got all the money right here, it looks like. Cause that's 24.5 is what's left over, right?
Where you at?
On the bond, total
Cash.
resources, cash and total resources.
I think
Yeah.
the program is run by the Atmospheric Resource Board, and generally we have a meeting in February called the Planning Board. And, all 4 counties get together, and the Atmospheric Resource Director, Darren, explains the program and what he's got and what he thinks everybody should do. And then he takes our input from that, which is just advice to him. He runs the program, and then he decides what it's gonna be, and then we get a bill. We pay that bill, and that gives us and then we sign the contract, and that is how the whole program is run. Now, if you wanna do something like you're talking, Roger, it'll have to be taken up at the planning meeting with the other county.
But we could request that money, cause if we only come to the,
What's that got to do with the, motion on the table?
it has to do with the budget, I'm
That would take-
explaining
that
my
would take
case.
it.
Because then you don't even have to go to the county for a budget request,
Well,
cause you already have the money. And they're not gonna turn away your money there.
now,
They
the way
say-
I understand it, before we can do anything, we have to decide what motion's on the table.
I'm talking about the budget, I'm talking about what we could do, the proposed budget is for $225,000, and I say we can do nothing, we have the money to do what I just laid out, that's what I'm saying.
But, how is that gonna work with the other counties?
Why are we concerned with the other counties? I understand it's cool, but it's the point of why is Williston flying over here? We
They
should be
don't-
concerned about Ward County at this point. And we have, for the 5 to 6 severe thunderstorm warnings that we have a year.
4 to 5 watches.
4 to 5, excuse me. There is enough cash here without having to submit to the county to fly those planes, instead of flying every non-little threatening cloud that comes in.
But that is something that's done by the ARB board, the directors, they are the ones that run the program. If you
So,
want
Hank,
that, then we have
they
to-
have a right to give their input, and that's what they're doing, and they're giving their input, and that's for you guys then to decide when you call the motion as to how you wish to react to the input that's given,
The
and that's
ARB
what
board
they've done.
Cannot ask for more money from us after the budget's already set. So you're gonna go to them saying, hey, this is what we have to offer, work with it. And that can, it's a very workable situation right there.
I think you're only looking at the severe thunderstorms, you're not looking at just, something that pops up and comes in and you're trying to enhance
And
the
this-
rain that's in
Well, I think
that.
last meeting, aren't we 90% hail suppression? Is that what we were told last meeting?
Right.
So,
That's that, the stat was, last meeting was 90% hail suppression, 10% rain enhancement of that. We pulled out the flat hours.
Oh,
Yep.
so
Do they
then-
get the weekly, do they get the weekly reports on?
I do. I don't know, Roger, do you get the weekly reports, or you off that list too?
No, I get those.
Oh, okay, I was making sure.
No, and that's what I'm saying,
Who are you with?
Pardon me?
Who are you with?
I'm Shelley Wepler, I'm a Ward County Commissioner.
Okay.
And my only reason here, I am not for, I am not against. I have heard that the meetings have not necessarily gone as they should, and I am only here to make sure that meetings are being held appropriately, and that people have their chance to give input, and that, motions and that meetings are noticed, and that, they're held according to the law. That I'm just here because I had input and I've had lots of calls for, I've had lots of calls against. I visited with people on both sides of the picture. And so I'm only here to make sure that a proper meeting is being held.
Is this board supposed to represent the constituents of the county, or is this board just get to play God for everybody else in the county?
They are here, the purpose of the board is to run the weather modification program and make decisions on that. They submit the budget to the county and then the county commission approves the budget. And Hank is right, next year is the end of 5 years, so the county commission will be deciding next year whether or not to continue the program for another 5 years. This board
And
doesn't
when you
have
say-
any control over that, that's the county commission.
Just for clarification, when you say next year, I think this board dissolves on April 9th, 2020. So this would be, if the resolution is re-upped, this is for seeding operations for the 2020 seeding year.
Correct.
That is correct.
Yeah. That would, just so people are on the same page when we say next year and stuff.
And that's what Hank
Yeah.
explained at the very beginning.
This budget's for 2020.
No, I understand fully on that. I was just saying, just to reiterate for people,
Yeah.
because I
Cause
can
that's
see how
what's,
it can be.
that's what you're deciding right now, is for that. And as Hank said, there's another vote that needs to take place.
Yeah, no, I
And
understand.
so it may or may not even be a point of
And
issue.
once we've paid, like this year, talking about the 2019 program, we've paid for the contract, and whatever they fly, don't fly, we're not gonna get it back.
Yeah, cause they bill us here, I have the contract right here, this is the 2018, but I assume it's pretty much standard for 19. It says, do we make a payment, on June 15th, the project season payment for the first 15 days of June is made. And then on June 30th, payment for the last 15 days of June is made, and then it looks like starting on July 15th, we pay for that part of the season and we pay for hourly aircraft charges. So it gets paid out throughout that, is how I understand, invoice or whatever, bi-weekly. So that's where, what I'm saying is, you know, yeah, we have pop-up storms or something, and if you're worried about that, but the coverage and the aerial extent to them is not gonna be enough to move the radar on anything. So then, if we prepare for these big events, which I think, and I'm trying to come at this from, there's two sides to this. And this is something of, an idea that's a compromise, because this fight's just gonna continue on, and I think if you want the program, this is something good for the program, just to show that we're trying to do something to match both sides, because it seems like I get the most phone calls when there's just a little tiny pop-up shower or something, we're out there seeing it. You know, it just, if you look at the aerial extent of coverage of those storms, it doesn't make up less than 1% of the county. So it doesn't, whatever happens in that storm doesn't essentially affect anything. And when we have bigger events, then that's something that we can prepare for and be ready for it.
But I think the person that's under that little pop-up would be.
Happy they're doing right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
or they're doing hail suppression.
Glad to hear the point.
What would happen had you not been there?
You would probably get hail if there was hail in it. I I've been standing in my barn during chores with rain and the hail starts and the planes are flying and it turns to slush. I like that.
Well, Gail, I texted you last night. My row crops are done. I would welcome hail.
Are
So-
you, I
Exactly.
think you're off the motion here. You're discussing,
I agree, but
that's,
I think,
Hank,
I'm
that's
trying
for
to
you.
bring up, I'm trying to
What?
discuss my point of why I'm saying this.
Mhm.
It makes economical sense.
you know what you should do, Roger, is that, you should write this up in a big memo, and then you should send it, you could send it all as a courtesy copy, but you should, ought to send it to Darren
So,
down at the
that's-
ARB board, because he's the one who's gonna decide this, he runs the program. Okay,
Why
have
do we succumb our own authority and our self-entity in Ward County than to somebody else?
Because basically all this authority does is coordinate with the other counties, that's all we do.
We could have maybe
We
another
don't
special
run-
meeting.
We don't run the program at all.
For
We
you,
don't
but
have
after
anything to
you-
do with it.
And I'm not comfortable with somebody else running our program.
Well,
But we're
then you
part
have to change
of
the
a
law.
bigger, there's, it's not just Ward County, in District Two, there's other counties.
Ward County's the one that sits at the end of all this stuff.
And the counties affected
And we pay
in
the most.
adjoining.
No,
We pay,
sorry,
we pay the most money into this.
that's not true.
That is true.
Not now.
Have you taken that on a per capita basis?
I just,
That's
I'm
how
not
you have to
concerned-
look at
well,
it, per
I
capita.
understand per capita, but here's the deal.
at,
We're
at,
the linchpin.
at the, planning meeting we had, and they broke everything out by the county.
Mhm.
And, what our share was, and both McKinsey and Williams pay considerably more than we do.
Last
And
year after
Bert-
the budget cut
Huh?
though, after the budget cut to 70,000, but you were
Yeah.
requesting
No.
was it 289 last year?
No, we just, 180.
180.
Okay, sorry.
No, but that was all cut, so we didn't spend it,
Mhm.
okay? So like, when they did the, tried to do the contract, and he redid the operational things, but at this time, both McKinsey and, Williams pay more than we do, by quite a bit.
That's good.
And per person, when Burke was in, they were paying a lot more than anybody
Well,
else.
we're told as you go west, you get more hail, so they probably should pay for more of it because they would have more hail.
Now, I've explained this about a million times, that the formula split up between the counties went from the very time the, district was organized sometime back in the seventies or whatever it was. And the way it was explained to me was that they all got together and they were all talking, and they basically said, well, if we're gonna do this, this is what we can do, this is what you can do, and this is what we can do, and they all agreed, and so they've been using that formula ever since. Now, Darren knows that's not a good formula, and he was trying to work out a way to do it differently based on all these different things. And we were at one of those planning meetings. And, the guy from Montreal kind of rolled him, and he said, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I said, well, I kinda agree with that. And that was before all the oil came in, you know? So we just left it this way, so this is why Darren makes that up. And, when Burke came in, we talked to them, and I knew that the commissioner told me that to say, if we could come anywhere close to their 2 mills, they would probably go for it. So that's how they came in, but they were paying 45,000 in Burke County at the end, and we were only paying less than 200, about 200,000, so that's like 25%. And Ward County compared to Burke County is,
Well, there's about a
So-
million acres, there's about a million acres in Ward County farmland, and there's about 950,000 in Montreal. And I know Montreal's been at 60 a long time.
yes, and Montreal was, and that's part of the trouble, is that when they did that way back, that's how they arranged that.
And so then when they say this is what we can offer, if I say this is what we can offer, we have 24/5 in our coffers, we're gonna do it this way. And if they cut a plane because of that or something, it's still fine, because once the plane is up, if the situation arises next summer where they need to continue into Ward County, we can give they can go the go-ahead and go, and it works.
Well, I don't see, even though we're discussing all this, and I think that this would be an excellent, discussion at the planning meetings, if we're gonna go again next year, and, that would be very interesting, but in the meantime, I'll
Well,
just
if we
call
wanna,
the
we
question.
wanna take control of it though, we can send them and say, this is what we're gonna do. Let's take control of our own destiny instead of putting it in a
I don't
bureaucracy's
wanna
hands.
take I wanna do it just like we have been doing. You know.
Just keep You know, it's the same way we've done. Cause that's always worked.
I call a roll, I'm the first one to vote, I vote.
No, Tanner,
No.
Roger.
No. On the proposed budget of
Right,
the sheet.
proposed budget, Jerome,
Yes.
Gail, yes. Hank,
Yes. Okay,
yes, Gary.
so, the meeting for, the reason for the meeting has been taken care of, and we can adjourn this, and remember the Twins are playing at about 11 o'clock today. So,
What's
thank
that?
everybody.
The Twins are playing at 11, is that what you said?
Yep.
I just wanna say that thank you to those against and for. I have received lots of input from both sides. Again, as a Ward County Commissioner, this has been one of the hottest contentions, and the analogy I have for it is it's like the Hatfields and the McCoys. Those that are for it, don't even want to say they are. I watched it in one of our commission meetings a couple years ago when we asked for a hand vote, and the no's votes went way up in the air, and the hand votes kinda went like this, because they didn't want their neighbors to see that they were for it. I had the great opportunity to attend, if you saw in the paper, the Dinner on the Prairie event that just occurred this week, or did any of you see about it or know anything about it? What a wonderful event, put on by, I think it's the Uncommon Good or for the Common Good, and it's an awareness of egg products. And so they had farmers and ranchers at every table that you could visit with, and then they had produce that they had prepared, with their oats, with their flax, with their, with all the different products, combined it with something else. There were a couple of dairy farmers, there were a couple of bison, from Rugby, the bison, producers were here. And I saw a great opportunity because I was conversing with farmers and ranchers in the region. And so I took the opportunity to ask all of those from this region, Ward County, what they thought. I said, I don't wanna get into a discussion. That's exactly how I approached it. I said, I don't wanna get into a discussion. I just wanna know, yes or no, where do you lie in Weathermont? And all but one said they wanted Weathermont and hoped that it would continue. The one who said no said, I wish we could have a break for a year. And that was very interesting to me. A gentleman who lives south of the lake, in getting into a discussion with him, actually my husband discussed with him because they ended up being originally from Rapelje, Montana. Who's from Rapelje? I mean, they just got into a talk and they had Rapelje in common. This guy thanked his lucky stars that his family's farm was south of the lake, cause he said the lake effect is real. He said, we get rain like you wouldn't believe, and he was so thankful to be in that region. So the lake effect certainly has an impact on us up here, and I look forward
Lake
to
effect.
the lake effect. I've heard the lake effect of breaking up cloud storms as they come over the lake.
Where's the scientific paper for that?
You hear it, Roger, I'm not here to be in a debate with you. I'm
You're
telling you.
preaching, I would like to
No,
hear.
I'm not preaching. I am sharing a comment from a farmer who lived
Mhm.
south of the lake, who thanked his lucky stars for what he termed the lake effect, okay? That's
Show me
all
what
I'm
I say
doing.
to that is
I don't wanna get
I'm
into a
south of Sawyer.
discussion. No, I didn't wanna discuss.
I'm south of Sawyer and I see this all the time.
Yep.
And you know why he's getting rain? Because Hank's breaking up my
Yeah.
cloud that's supposed to be
You know,
rain.
you wanna
with
talk
farm-
science, National Academy of Science, let me read this.
Wait
There
a
is no
second.
scientifically credible
Yeah.
evidence that hail
Yeah.
can be suppressed.
Again,
That's
I
a
will say,
fact.
thank you. I have
Right here.
texts
You read your
on my
study.
phone from many of
Who's
you
from
on the
National
know.
Academy of
Roger,
See, you're talking over.
Roger, excuse me. I told you that I thanked you. I have many texts and many emails on my phone from those in the know, and I have many from those in the yes. And there are two sides of it, and I do want it to come. I don't think the commissioners should decide it. It's not for 5 people to decide. So if it needs to come to a vote, 3 years ago, it was pointed out that you quote the century code all the time, Roger, and 3 years ago, it was pointed out that there's a way to get rid of it, and that has never been done. There is a way to get rid of it immediately, and the steps were never taken to get that done.
I have a question now from esteemed district attorney. What
And
would
this
hap-
meeting has been adjourned, so there is no meeting, this is
Discussion.
just people discuss, just talking.
What would happen, is it legally possible for the commissioners to put on the next 2020 ballot a question, do you favor weather modification? Yes or no? And this is only for advisement to the commission, because obviously you can't, if we're going to make it a legal question, that goes into a lot more things. But why can't they put that on the ballot for the whole county, is that, do you favor weather modification or don't you? And that's just a recommend, it's not a binding on the commission, but it's just a referendum. That means nothing but, except for public relations.
I don't know way to do that, for the cost of getting a public opinion, that would be.
It's like the census question.
People can do that, and a group could do that.
Right.
I don't believe the commission would do that, but a group can do that.
See, my contention all along, and all I can bring to this is my own experience, okay? And, it's always been my feeling that the, people for the program are kinda like old Nixon's silent majority. A lot of people are for it and they don't wanna make a big thing and they don't wanna come and do, but, since all this, whatever you wanna call it, started a couple of years ago, and my name been in the paper and all, I've never got a call from anybody, except one guy talking about it. But I've had quite a few times when people come up and say, I'd like to thank you for what you're doing for Weathermont. I don't like that, Haley, you're doing a good job.
Do they live in town, or what, do they live in the city of Minot, or what?
What's that?
Do they live in the city of Minot, or are they farmers that are calling you up and telling?
I live up here in the gooseneck. The people around here, people that know me.
Hank, I think we could, every one of us in this room could say the same.
See, that's what I
Pro or
think.
nay?
I can't really.
I said, I think everybody in this room could say, you know, I could say the opposite, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of farmers here that took time out of their day again to come up and see this. And I'm not gonna take a show of hands, but I'm pretty sure there's more opponents here than proponents. So,
Well, I think you're probably right. I remember arguing that point, I'm just saying.
I have no doubt.
Okay.
There hasn't been an effort that, like you guys have had for the yes vote.
We're gonna have a weather, effect tonight again. It's stacking up, looking like we're gonna have the same thing we had last night. Is there any way you guys can take a day off?
Okay, so wait a minute, where are you at in rain enhancement?
Oh, don't do it anymore.
They aren't doing rain enhancement anymore.
The rain wasn't up last night?
I didn't say that.
Here's the point.
I'd say that's
Wait a minute,
There's a ton of.
Excuse me, wait a second.
No, you don't get it. There's a ton of
Roger,
row crops that-
Roger, excuse me, I don't think you understand what I'm trying to point here. To laugh at other people's comments is so disrespectful.
you know, it's
And
just.
that's not appropriate to do that.
It's
I mean, it's
disrespectful
like
for you
you're
to cut into him when he's
in-
in the middle of a
No,
conversation.
I was commenting that I didn't feel it
You
was
cut him off.
appropriate, because he cut me. I was trying to address the laughter in the room. So why did I cut him? Because he cut me. I was trying to address the laughter in the room, and that's so disrespectful. I don't appreciate disrespect. Everyone has an opinion and everyone deserves
You
their
come out and look at
time.
my farm and then we'll talk about disrespect
And
right now.
I,
You know, and you
everyone
would explain to my
has-
banker where I'm gonna be short because of these planes that are screwing up the weather where I'm farming. Then we'll talk about respect, the disrespect. You guys are worried about money for this outfit? Who's gonna pay my
No.
bills on my farm? Who's
I'm-
gonna do that?
not worried about money for this. They're setting a
No, you're not
budget.
worried, I know.
Well, I think we can go over that.
What I was gonna say is the rain enhancement, they're not conducting rain enhancement, there's a lot of row crop farmers in here. They need rain enhancement.
Big time.
Oh, then what do you want? They're not conducting
Thank you
it
very
right
much
now.
for coming.
That's exactly.
That's the point,
That's
Shelley.
the point.
But wait a minute, but you guys are on this board to say whether you want it or don't want it. They ask every week.
And
just protecting
and you know
Minot,
what?
North
Nobody,
Dakota.
nobody asked us to discontinue rain enhancement. Nobody asked us.
Well, you wanna continue it?
Yeah, and get rid of hail suppression, cause
Do
there's
you
plenty of
want
data
to
that shows
continue
hail
rain
suppression
enhancement?
decreases rainfall.
No, no, I wanna hear.
Yes.
So I'm hearing you say you would like to see rain
If
enhancement
you've listened to
continue.
everything I've said, I talk about doing away with the hail suppression side, because there's ample data that shows it decreases rainfall. If you look at the 30-year averages, Berthold receives 1.05 inches less of rainfall
Yeah.
than Ross, North Dakota in the cloud seeding months. And just listen, hold on. And that, 90% of the flights are hail suppression. That's how it always goes. You can find all this data everywhere that shows.
I get a weekly report, and
Yes.
hail suppression is not 90% of what I'm reading.
Well, that's what we were
That's
told.
what he
said last week.
Yeah,
That's what
it
he
might
said
have been last week.
And that's what, the guy who never says anything in a board meeting who writes it up, it's all about hail suppression, that's all we hear about. Go ahead, do rain enhancement, quit the rest of this crap, it kills us. It absolutely kills us, the hail suppression kills us.
The only rain I
It's
got
the
south of
overseeding.
Alva was when they didn't fly one weekend, that's the
Hail
only
sup-
rain I got.
The difference between hail suppression and rain enhancement is, hail suppression is the overseeding of the cloud to
Right.
make the nuclei fall out
Yeah.
and either evaporate or melt before they hit the surface. You overtake the updraft, it collapses the storm. There's plenty of documented data on that.
Yeah.
And that's what
So
I've
I've
always
never
argued.
heard anybody, I've never heard the part that you're saying, yes, all I've heard is get rid of it. I see
We're-
the.
we're
I see
getting
And
rid
I'm
of
trying,
hail
I would,
suppression.
I
Or
would
just
love to
don't
see
get
it, but
not
I'm
gonna
not,
work.
this is, I know, but here's the thing.
Yep.
I've thrown out many ideas.
Mhm.
I'm the only guy that's ever tried to
Okay,
beat in the middle.
so Roger?
Roger, you made
Uh,
a motion every single meeting to meet in the middle.
Okay, wait a second.
I don't know that this is the board that makes that decision.
It is the board.
Of
It is.
Makes
We
the
can- we-
budget
if we
decision,
don't-
isn't it
If
isn't
this-
it that other board that
No,
makes the decision
no,
what type of
it's
flights?
this board, this board is the conduit from the public to the
Okay.
program, and it's supposed to be run, everything's supposed to come through this
But as
board.
far as determining what types of flights to make and that
Yes.
sort of.
And that
But you
gets
need to get
determined.
it on the agenda. Okay, first of all, there needs to be, if you want a topic, and what I heard, Hank say is that it can't wait till next week. Your ideas are something that you could maybe have more meetings, planning meetings. I heard
And
Hank
who calls
say,
it?
just a second, and I heard Hank say not till next fall. I would say the time is to do it right now.
You know what
it-
they did to our bylaws
to
last fall when
discuss.
we finally got bylaws? They made it so it
They
takes
who?
three.
They who?
This board.
That you're a part of they.
I know, but listen to how this
You're a
went.
part of they.
They changed it from 2 members to call a meeting to 3. You know why they did that? So we couldn't
Oh,
call
I
a
see.
meeting.
A majority to call a meeting.
Yeah, which is in
Yeah.
itself is an
But do you
illegal
have,
meeting violation.
Gail, how often do you have meetings?
Once a year.
Once you.
Well,
Unless
I
another
didn't know
member
that
tries.
To
to-
have one
to
time,
call.
it's 2 people could call
That's
a
the
meeting.
standard Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah.
And you guys specifically voted on that last year
Yeah.
to make it 3.
Well, right,
So the
yeah.
reason we don't have meetings is those other 3.
you could have more meetings, you might need to have one meeting a year to do your budget, but there's no harm in having more
And I
meetings.
They have
proposed,
to.
I proposed last year in the bylaw session, let's have a bi-weekly meeting in the seeding months. Do you think anybody here wants to talk about that? No, because that puts attention on this program, that there is no scientific proof that it works. There's 5 counties out of 3,007 in this country that conducts hail suppression.
In
Why?
the country?
In the country.
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 Why
The
only
whole
5?
United States.
The whole United States.
There's 5.
And
Well,
there
are you
If it
talking about
works-
us 5 counties?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait,
yes.
wait.
Hail
That does what?
suppression. Hail suppression.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not gonna get me there.
Thank you,
And how many
Okay.
acquitted?
yeah.
There's
Well, and it's
never
been
been one to leave.
budgetary, so hail suppression is what you're talking about, not cloud
And if-
seeding for
that's
rain.
what I've said
And
from the
snow,
get-go.
because they do it out in Vale, they do it in Bozeman, they do it in Bozeman,
No, they
They
don't.
don't.
They do not.
Calgary.
They quit in California, they quit
Yeah.
in Vail, they quit in all of, I'm
And
in
if you wanna
mountains
talk
all
about the
winter.
Wyoming
They
project,
quit.
they showed a 3% increase, and that's orographic seeding.
Well,
And if
I'll
you
look
read-
that,
and if you just
I'll
read-
look that up,
And if you read.
Nathan, because,
They all quit.
I've read in Kansas where they quit and it all had to do with monetary reasons, you know.
Well,
Well,
this
it's a waste
program
of
pays
money.
for
Calgary,
Yeah, they couldn't
Calgary
justify
is the
return.
best way to do it, have the
Spend
insurance
200 grand for
agents
nothing.
pay
But
for
this
it.
is, when you
That's
talk
what they do in
about,
Calgary.
when you talk about, and it's odd that they don't do it in the farm country,
What,
the hail suppression.
yeah,
Give the
Because-
225
because
grand a
they-
year or school systems or roads or something that actually
And
benefit.
if you read-
Exactly.
and
The
if you
Fargo
want-
Jet Center and a little group of crony capitalism, like, this is the stuff that needs to stop in the state, 'cause it's a waste of absolute money when there's real needs. This is a joke.
This paper, this National Academy of Sciences paper, it says, They reviewed all the studies that they cite for this program. It says, based on the rigorous examination of the accumulated results of numerous experimental tests in the static and dynamic mode seating concepts conducted over the past 4 decades, it has been found that they have not yet provided either statistical or physical evidence required to establish their scientific validity. This statement was made specifically in reference to glacionic seeding of convective clouds. So when we talk about rain enhancement and hail suppression here, that's convective clouds. The study goes on to say, with the exception of orographic clouds in the winter. So whenever you reference anything in California, Vail, Bozeman, the Wyoming project, that's
Calgary.
orographic seeding.
Or do you know what they do up there?
Calgary does hail suppression. But I've always found it funny that they only suppress hail in the city of Calgary, and nobody else in Canada does it.
Roger, we're, looking at, or for everybody here that has questions that you want answers to, we're looking at putting together, I don't even know what to call it, but
A forum?
question, answer. It'll be some meeting place.
Who's we?
I don't know, I was talking with this Lance, whatever.
Davey.
And talking with Darren, and so.
And Lance Gavey was formerly the director of the North Dakota Grain Growers Association. What's on their books are official resolutions that are against weather modification.
Because you presented it at one of the
Exactly.
meetings, yes, okay, I know that.
Well, a meeting would
I'm
be
not
great.
I'm not saying him, I'm just saying people that can answer your questions.
The answers are right here.
That'd be great.
This study right here
Yep.
says
I know.
everything we need to know.
And I can bring paperwork that would contradict that.
And this study was the basis for the
So,
Wyoming project.
Are you saying Darren is going to come up in someplace in Ward County and have a question and
Yes.
answer
And
opportunity
there's
for
just,
everybody?
let me brief
Shelley,
you on the whole thing.
Shelley, you understand that it's not it's not rain enhancement,
Yep.
it's the hail suppression.
Yep.
And what is happening, and we watch it, is these clouds are forming, they are bringing us rain. And because of the hail suppression, it's breaking it down.
I hear you. Have you-
It's not rain enhancement, it's the hail suppression.
Yeah.
And what happens is, and when you talk about they get more rain down south, you can go south of Sawyer where I live and watch it, and they break like this. And then when they get over towards Drake and over that area, everything reforms and it heads like it should.
Sure.
So when we're coming towards Minot, when we're breaking them up like
They've
that,
been seeded, they could be seeded for 130 miles. You don't see the
that's what's
duration.
happening, and that's why
Did it last night?
that's why we're upset
what?
about it.
What he's talking about,
It
it
broke
broke
up
it
again.
up last night, there was a
It went
wall of
like
rain
this.
coming. That's why I said, we're gonna have the same weather effect tonight again. Is there any way we can take a break for one
Let's let it
night?
go. Let's
I
see
mean, if
what
I could get an
happens.
inch of rain, I might have some hope yet.
Yeah, all the people that the places that used to do this and quit, they've never come back and asked for it back. I'm not saying anything will change.
I'm not gonna smack you.
Well, I didn't wanna run over
And that's this study though, what I'm saying, this study then made another study come out.
And whose study is that?
This is the National Academy of Sciences,
Why don't
the
you send it to
National
me,
Resource,
Roger?
I've cited this thing 1,000 times, but nobody
I'm
seems
sure
to
you
listen.
have, but you have it, it's your Bible and it's on your nightstand. It's not my Bible on my nightstand, I have a lot of other issues that I'm looking at, I don't have an agenda item on this.
So
This is one
I know,
of
but I'm
many
just-
issues
let me just-
that I deal with,
And
so
this
I
is
would
an issue that we
appreciate-
don't even need in this county.
Yep.
It's a created issue. 3,007 counties, 5 in this country do hail suppression.
I got a question. Last meeting, Hank was asked who makes the decision between rain enhancement or hail suppression? And he said he does.
He must, because we don't ever
Why
get
does he,
contact about
I mean,
it.
how does he decide? I mean, who made him the meteorologist? I mean, I don't
Yeah,
understand
that,
that. You know what I
agree
mean?
that part of it would be interesting to know who
Because we're
decides.
fighting about rain enhancement or
Yeah.
hail suppression, why is
Yeah.
he deciding that is my question.
Yeah.
you know?
Right. And I think that's why I think it would be good if you have a question and answer with
Yeah,
Darren,
the
because
conversation about who
I've
decides.
always
And
thought
by the
that
way-
it's this other planning committee that's all the counties together making the plans and budgeting for not budgeting per se, but making a district plan of what to do.
I mean,
as
honestly,
far
I
as
don't think they
seeding
do, I
and
just think they fly
suppression.
everything.
If you wanna-
know what I mean?
No, they do make calls out asking
And when-
each area
And
who
you're
wants
the
it, 'cause
contact.
different areas
And you're the
stop at
contact?
different times.
You're the contact?
I do have, yep,
What's your qualifications to be that contact?
It's-
I just ask other farmers around, ask farmers what their thoughts
And
are,
Shelley.
what,
and it varies.
but what has, I know, and that's the problem. The only solution to this is dissolution, because this county, you know, we have to have these meetings up here, we're, 85 miles from the other side of the county? And it's a blanket one-size-fits-all thing.
Yep. I
And
agree,
if-
when it comes to that, there should be weekly meetings, and there should be a vote on whether it should be
Shelley, I was told-
continued or not continued. I think that would be the only appropriate way, that there be a person from every, township, a farmer from
And it
every
should-
township that could give input when they ask that question. I think that would be the best way
Why,
to, on
why should they
rain
fly in a
enhancement.
drought situation, is what I wanna know.
Yeah.
If we're in a drought, our county's in a drought, why should they be flying it anyway?
Well, that's then what the decision would be of that person from every township would ask that exact question.
I would say because not every township in the county is in a drought situation.
So then.
There are some that
becomes-
are doing really
and
well.
My
that-
understanding
You're
is
picking
this,
winners and losers.
this side.
You
That's the
can't
problem.
pick, that's the problem, you can't pick, like this whole rain.
That's why
man's
if we had a
thing.
majority, then it would be better.
It's not, you can't do that to us.
Well, but you're saying that, and I have emails from people who say, we have loved it, please
Do they know what?
continue.
Do they cite specific
Yeah,
facts?
they
and
say,
data? What?
I'll
Why?
have to look and reread it.
Well, I've actually
and
seen all
see.
the emails you've gotten, cause I've got plenty of people that forward me stuff
No,
to the
you haven't,
commission.
Roger, because I have texts. You haven't seen all the emails.
I know, but do they have facts to back it up? Because
I'm not,
nobody realizes.
I'm saying they're giving me their personal opinion, like
You're-
everyone here is, like right here. This
And-
isn't
and I'm the guy that
he's
brings
giving
facts.
his fact, right? He's just
Oh,
giving his
I
fact.
can give you McHenry County's fact,
Yeah.
I can bring
He's
500 guys
giving
on here
his
that'll say
fact.
the same thing.
And I'm just giving you're telling me not to listen to anybody. If you want me not to listen to anybody, then how can I listen to the people who are saying, don't do this because I'm dry, don't do the, Roger, you're telling me not to listen to
No,
anybody.
here's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, nobody actually has any data to back it up.
Yeah.
When somebody says, I feel the program helps, nobody's actually ever dug into this stuff. Cause
Well,
nobody
they
even knows
do,
this
they do
exists.
study it, and then last year, I did a little mini study, you cannot, 1 year does nothing make, so if you quit it for a year
That's why all
and
this
it
stuff
rains
is-
or it doesn't rain, 1 year a study does not make. But, I found it interesting, I don't know if it was last year budget time or the year before, NDRF, North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund came and told us that they had a really rough year because of all the hail. The hail damage, and so my ears perked up and I'm like, really? And they showed us the charts and how many hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent on claims, and I asked them to give it to me in county format. I said, can you share that with me in county format? I wanna see this in county format, and they said they couldn't do that. I said, then send me the Excel spreadsheet and I'll do it. So they sent me the Excel spreadsheet. I had to look things up because Cavalier, the city of Cavalier, is it the city of Cavalier is not in Cavalier County? I mean, you really have to dig in because things are named appropriately and might not be in the same county as what the name of their school is. Cavalier School is not in Cavalier County. So I really dug in to make sure that I was putting them in the appropriate county. And do you know that none, what?
I know what you're gonna say, there was no damage in Ward County.
There was no damage in any of the counties, not just Ward County, any of the counties that had hail suppression, there was zero damage.
On buildings.
That is
Zero
not true.
damage.
If it was
So,
2 years
okay,
ago,
yeah,
I
then
had
you wanna-
$500
you wanna talk
million
1 year and say
damage
it's-
at my farm on my buildings.
Yeah.
And I
You
was
sit here and say
absolutely
you don't wanna use
finished.
1
Did you
year, well
claim?
then let's.
Did you
Damn
put in a
right I
claim?
claimed. I had $500,000 on my buildings.
That
I
same
had
year I had-
$500,000 in crop loss. Roger, just let me speak here. Sorry.
So-
I was at the commission meeting when you had the budget hearing.
Yep.
And so that is
So-
not true.
So I was only going by the NDRF report, okay? I was only going, what that means is that's state. So the NDRF report only includes those
2 acres in
damages
the whole
to
county.
state. I didn't dig any further. I just found it
Well, I have
interesting.
insurance.
But it's not, no, it's means that it was state property. Public building.
How many acres of
That's
public
what I'm
buildings?
talking about.
How many acres of public buildings are
So
there in
it
the
was
county?
only public buildings,
Well-
and that was, so that's what it was, and only public buildings
That's a pretty small sample.
is what,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah,
you guys carry-
So then,
Wait
so
a
then
second.
here's
Wait.
insurance ratios for everything.
May I finish? I wasn't trying to prove anything, I saw this report, I heard someone proclaim that they had spent a lot of money on hail, and so I wanted for myself to see what that report said. And it was very interesting that there was zero damage in the counties by
That's because it all fell out.
public-owned buildings. Why was that now?
All fell out west of mine.
How much damage?
It's-
are you
But
gonna
it
get
was
on
not
road?
just Worth
Building.
County, any of those counties that had hail suppression had no damage.
Do you know
It
what
was
the
all
self-standardized
counties.
thing?
But again, that's only 1 year.
I know, but
And
your
maybe
example
Fargo
is
area,
horrible.
maybe
Your example
Fargo
is
area.
Horrible. You're talking public buildings.
Roger?
Just listen. They
You-
take probably 5 acres total of all the county buildings in the entire project. It's probably 5 acres. These hail loss
they're made of
studies,
brick.
these hail loss ratios right here, this is for every county, every acre, the long term. 1948 to 2016, Warren County is higher than the counties around it that don't conduct hail suppression. That's what you want. If you wanna sit up here and say, this is only 1 year and it's not a thing, but then go on how it is a thing, talk about this.
I wasn't going on how it was a thing.
Yes.
I was going on to say that
It was
one
interesting.
point in time, it was very interesting to have someone proclaim that there were huge hail losses and that really bit into their fund.
And you talk
And
about
it
making-
didn't impact any of those that had hail suppression.
So
And
people
I-
laughing at-
actu- yeah, absolutely, there's a whole bigger area that needs to be looked
And
at
that-
for
and
that.
that's- and
And
that's-
again,
When's the
and
commission
again,
meeting,
let
you
me
guys?
say this, I am not for, I am not against. I am simply for well-run meetings, I am for respect of each other's opinions, and I listen to all. That's what I appreciate most of all,
I have a
is
question.
respect
At some point, you
in
do have to be
meetings.
for or against the budget, don't you?
At some point, we do need to make decisions. For my decision, I'm gonna tell you where I've been these last 3 years. We signed a 5-year contract 5 years ago to continue this program. And if I signed a 5-year contract with you, and then in year 3, I pulled out, what would you think?
I think
You
that's-
wouldn't be happy.
I think-
So that's where I've been.
I have a question.
So
Just,
now- so now
let
that's
me
over,
finish.
though. Right.
Please, may I finish? So that's what I've hung my hat on, and I had truly hoped this would be done by now. That, Roger, you would have done the work to get rid of it.
So what do we need
Because
to do? You said we can do it.
That Roger would have done the work to get rid of it, cause we gave you ABC, how you're supposed to. You had to go get signatures, and you had to get a certain amount of signatures. I don't remember what it was.
give
It was
me
based on the last election time. You had to go around and get signatures and present those signatures. That would have gotten rid of it. But the choice was not to do that.
Now the
The
choice is
choice was
yours.
not to do that.
Now the choice is yours.
So, thank you, Roger. And so the choice now could be that maybe there'll be money put in, and if it's not used, let me tell you a savings we did last year. Last year, our budget included big money for, Roger, you are so disrespectful.
I'm not, you disrespected me saying this is my Bible and it sits on the bedstand. You're disrespecting every person that has a Bible on their bedstand when you make that offhanded comment, then you go on saying, don't laugh.
I apologize for that.
Well, yeah,
This
but-
is your, reading material, what you hang your hat on when it comes to weather mod, and you should, because it is very much in there, and Roger, I truly apologize if I
I don't need
did
your
any
apology.
disrespect to the Bible, well, you just said that. So,
It's so political, this whole discussion.
last year, we approved a budget which included, I don't even remember how many millions it was for health insurance. And in December, we made a big change and we went to a different health insurer. We stayed with Sanford Health. And in the end, it saved us almost $500,000. But it was still in the budget, but we're not gonna spend it on health insurance. Cause we reduced that. We did levy ahead of time, but we continue working to see what we can do to make sure that taxpayers pay only for the needs that are out there. We don't wanna raise taxes. That's,
know where you're
I
going.
pay taxes. So when it comes to this budget, as Hank said, you've approved that 225 here. Roger, I heard you give some really good ideas about the way that it could move. That money isn't spent yet, it's budgeted.
No, I know.
So what that means is you can never go up from that, you could always go down from that.
I understand.
So maybe if your ideas come here and you have more meetings, that could be adopted, and even though 225 was budgeted, maybe in the end that will be agreed upon, and that is what they will be spent here. And that would be a great thing, cause even though it's budgeted, you spent less.
What I don't understand is that the way Hank makes it sound is we're not making our own decisions. Somebody, Darren in Bismarck's making these decisions for us. That doesn't seem right to me.
And that's the question that I
And,
think
Right,
everybody
right.
so
has.
if there's, so if they have all that money, then they're gonna spend it, and no matter where they spend it.
It's not. There's so many hours that are budgeted for the top planes and so much for the base planes. If those hours aren't used during that 3-month period, that money goes into a separate account and it sits there. Because there's been many times, if we needed an extension, we didn't have the money, Darren would use that money for it. Or, we went and asked the commissioners for, okay, we budgeted, we need 225,000, but Darren has X amount of dollars left over from the previous years. We'll use some of that and ask for less dollars from the commissioners. It sits there, they don't use it, it's there.
So can we just pay them to sit then?
Yeah,
Pardon?
Give them the money tonight, let them
Just
park
let
it.
if we're gonna waste everybody's money, just pay them to sit.
Yeah, that'd be great. For tonight, it would be
Then you
great.
didn't violate the contract.
Let them have their money, let everybody get their
Take
money,
your 10
everybody
grand
get paid.
tonight.
Yeah.
The contract is actually, it's a fixed daily base price, and it's $8,700 a day.
Ward County, so the planes last night flew out of Williston.
Which is a
whole
whole
different
different topic in itself.
Okay, what,
Well,
The efficiency of this,
and these are, yes, and I think these are all questions that you actually have to
Part of
ask
that
the district
efficiency-
meeting and Darren about, because I don't understand how all of this works either. Who's actually ultimately making the call of when the planes go
Right.
up?
It's the program.
And how often they go up, that sort of thing, and I think Darren or whoever's in charge of the district, so to speak, which is this whole region,
And-
needs to be here to answer those questions.
And there's so many
for us.
things
there's a
like-
question over here, I'm
So I
sorry.
just have a comment, we were talking about planes, you know, it was about 2 weeks ago on a Sunday, there was these little popcorn showers popping. And we look up and what do I see? A plane flying through it. Now, I know there's no hail in that, it was hardly even raining. I mean, I think it's absolutely ridiculous, some of the things that they do, you know.
What was the date there? What was
I
that?
believe it was a Sunday.
The first Sunday of the fair.
Right.
The,
There was, incident where a pilot,
The 28th?
I don't know
Oh,
if
no,
it
that'd be
was
the
that
last.
one,
the 21st.
but he was following one of those like you were talking about. He was just following it, he was tracking it, debating on,
We're paying for it, Gail, I mean, that's my
but
problem.
nothing was done because it dissipated in front of him.
Well,
but
there
they
was
were-
nothing to go up for.
They were seeding it that day, they're all about.
No,
getting
this
the-
one was not being seated.
I
and-
know, but this one was they're talking about, because you see them when they turn gold, and that's the thing, that's what I'm trying to talk about here at this meeting. We spend more time just flying around chasing our tails around up there than anything. All that money is wasted, but it becomes, and I think the reason they distribute it out the way they do, they guarantee these interns X amount of flight hours. In this contract, it says they have to hire X amount of interns. The project has become all about the aviation side of this, cause it's UND interns and meteorologists that they guarantee them these things from this program. And they're always flying and observing. I mean, I can stand out on my porch and tell you if that storm's severe or not. And that's the thing, that's what I've been trying to get at, and that's what makes everybody so mad, is we sit and fly, cause you have a total daily cost, if you look at the contract, it's like, it's just under $9,000 a day. Well, we actually, if you believe it works, you only probably need this service 5 days a year. And we don't need 8 airplanes, you
So,
need,
Roger, you're right, there is more than one, the only program that we're doing right here in this room, the only program that you do here
Well, we-
is for the weather mod, but the entire program absolutely includes that aspect of the internship. And I've wondered, why doesn't NDSU just pay for the whole program? So the 21st, someone asked about, and I was just pulling up a report I still have on my emails, and there was, so rain, so when it shows this, see there's hail, rain, so on 7/21, it does say 4.29 on rain.
Gail, when is that?
Daily total 4.29, running total,
see, here's.
so they ran 4 hours
See,
for rain on
this
that
was
Sunday.
in 16. So leaving the
Somebody
county,
was
see that?
talking, I need to clarify that, they were talking about the efficiency of the plane.
Oh, somebody, Gail wanted
Gail, when
to
is that
address the
forum?
efficiency of the
We don't
planes.
know yet.
the efficiency and the
When-
Williston.
When our budget was cut last year, the planes, they're in places, the planes, for who can get to where the quickest, and we lost our plane in Minot. That's why the plane came from Williston. Because that plane now is in Bowman, and we share
This is
it.
what I'm talking
Who's
about, that storm
arranging
moves from
for
here
that
to there,
forum?
cause guess what,
Do
I
you
got
know?
a bunch of hail.
No,
This
it's
is what
still,
I'm
it's
talking
still
about, that goes on,
something,
why are we paying
we
for
know
this?
it needs
This
to be done,
boundary
these
should
guys
be the
have
opposite.
questions
You
that
could
need
literally cut
answers
our
from
budget.
people.
Well, I think it
Yeah,
just
and they
because
generally do
before
it outside. It's
September,
kinda like the
September
ETM
is
They do
our
it.
first reading.
But here's the thing, they tell you it takes 20 minutes for it to take hold. They should stop 20 minutes before it enters McHenry County.
You need to check.
Like at Hauser's Farm
But you
Supplies,
never
like
talk
right in there.
The first reading of our budget,
And that's-
official budget,
There are ways to,
is,
I've
you know,
got
that
that
second
avenue.
meeting,
Nobody
is
wants
supposed
to
to
do
be
it.
the first